The warning klaxon screamed through the bridge of the USS Blackstar like the dying wails of a wounded beast. Captain Sarah Chen gripped the armrests of her command chair, her knuckles white against the polished metal as the massive dreadnought shuddered under enemy fire. "Hull breach on Deck 7, shouted Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the engineering station, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "Emergency bulkheads are holding, but we've lost atmospheric pressure in sections 12 through 15. Dark eyes remained fixed on the main view screen, where 3 sleek alien warships circled like predators around wounded prey. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly silver sheen, and energy weapons pulsed from their surfaces in patterns that seemed almost organic. "Weapon status, Commander Torres," Sarah called out, never taking her gaze from the screen. "Port plasma." "Cannons are offline," replied Maria Torres from the tactical station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls that flickered with red warning lights. "Starboard batteries at 60%, but Captain ... Her voice trailed off, uncertainty. "Creeping in. Speak your mind, Torres. Their shields aren't just deflecting our weapons, they're adapting. Each shot we fire becomes less effective than the last." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems and the distant rumble of damaged hull plating. Sarah had commanded the Blackstar for 3 years, through pirate raids and territorial disputes, but nothing had prepared her crew for this. 12 hours earlier, they had received a distress signal from the outer colonies, a simple mining operation. On Kepler 4-4 to be reporting strange ships in their system, standard protocol called for investigation. What they found instead was humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. And that civilization was not interested in peace. "Captain," whispered Communications Officer Lisa Park, her face pale. As she pressed her earpiece closer, "I'm picking up transmissions from the lead vessel. It's not like anything in our translation protocols, but the computer is making some progress." "Put it through," Sarah ordered. The speakers crackled with static. Then a voice emerged, cold, mechanical, yet somehow alive. The words were alien, but underneath ran a computer-generated translation that sent chills down every spine on the bridge. "Inferior species. Expansion Sector 7-7-9... ... Resistance is ... futile ... Prepare for harvesting." Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. Harvesting. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. "Sir," Torres said urgently, "I'm reading. Massive energy signatures from all 3 ships. They're charging some kind of weapon system I've never seen before." On the view screen, the alien vessels began to glow with an ominous purple light that seemed to pulse with malevolent intelligence. The lead ship, larger than the others, pointed its elongated nose directly at the Blackstar's hull. "All hands. Brace for impact," Sarah shouted into the shipwide communications system. But the attack never came. Instead, the 3 alien ships suddenly pulled back, their weapons powering down. For a moment, the only sound on the bridge was the collective exhale of 20 crew members who thought they were about to die. Captain Park said, her voice trembling, "I'm receiving another transmission. This one's different." "Different? How?" "It's coming from behind them." Sarah spun in her chair to face the tactical display. There, emerging from the shadow of Kepler 4, for 2B's largest moon, was a ship unlike anything in human military records. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Blackstar, with a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, pulsing with a deep blue energy that made the alien purple glow look sickly by comparison. "My God," whispered Torres, "what is that thing?" The alien ships that had been attacking the Blackstar suddenly broke formation, their sleek hulls turning away from the human vessel to face this new arrival. Their graceful movements became erratic, almost panicked. "Park, are you getting any transmissions from the new contact?" "Yes, sir, and Captain, this one's in perfect English." A new voice filled the bridge comm, authoritative and unmistakably. "Human, USS Blackstar, this is Admiral Marcus Kane aboard the UES Prometheus. Stand down your weapons and prepare to receive boarding craft. We have much to discuss." Sarah felt her world tilt on its axis. There were no other human ships in this sector. Hell, The Blackstar was part of humanity's most advanced deep space exploration program. How could there be another human vessel out here? One that dwarfed her own ship and seemed to frighten away alien attackers with its mere presence. Torres scanned that ship. I want to know everything about it. Scanning now, Captain. But sir, the readings don't make sense. The hull composition includes materials not found in any human database. Energy signatures are off the charts, and Captain, ... double quotes. What I'm reading human life signs aboard that vessel. Thousands of them. The 3 alien ships, faced with this new arrival, suddenly accelerated away from the battlefield at speeds that should have torn their hulls apart. Within minutes, they had vanished into the depths of space, leaving only the Blackstar and the mysterious Prometheus in the system. Captain Chen, came Admiral Kane's voice again. Permission to come aboard? I believe it's time you learned the truth about humanity's place in this galaxy. Sarah looked around her bridge at faces filled with questions and fear. Whatever was about to happen would change everything they thought they knew about their species, their technology, and their future. Permission granted, Admiral, she said finally. Dock with Cargo Bay 2. As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her first officer, Commander David Kim, who had remained silent throughout the encounter. David, what do you make of all this? Kim's usually steady demeanor was shaken. Captain, I've run every scenario through my head, and none of them make sense. That ship, this Admiral Kane, they shouldn't exist. But they do exist, Sarah replied grimly. And something tells me our quiet little exploration mission just became something much more dangerous. On the view screen, the massive dark ship continued its approach, its blue energy patterns pulsing like a heartbeat. Whatever secrets it carried, Sarah knew that once they were revealed, there would be no going back. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, and they didn't even know they were already fighting it. # Chapter 2. Revelations in the Darkther. The cargo bay of the USS Blackstar had never felt so small. Captain Chen stood at attention with her senior staff, watching as a sleek black shuttle touched down on the deck plating with barely a whisper of sound. The craft's design was unmistakably human in origin, yet somehow more advanced than anything in their fleet. The shuttle's boarding ramp descended with a soft hiss, and 3 figures emerged. The man in the lead wore a uniform that looked familiar yet wrong. It bore the insignia of Earth's United Defense Force. But the cut and materials were unlike anything Sarah had seen in her 15 years of service. Admiral Kane appeared to be in his 50s, with graying hair and the kind of steady gaze that came from seeing too much combat. The woman beside him moved with the fluid grace of enhanced cybernetics, her left arm gleaming with mechanical components that seamlessly integrated with human tissue. The third figure made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. He was clearly not entirely human. His skin had a faint blue tint, and his eyes held depths that seemed almost alien, yet his bearing and uniform marked him as part of Kane's crew. Captain Chen, Admiral Kane said, extending his hand. Thank you for allowing us aboard. I know this situation must be confusing. Sarah shook his hand, noting the unusual firmness of his grip. Admiral, I'll be frank. 12 hours ago, my biggest concern was mapping uncharted systems. Now I've encountered hostile aliens, watched them flee from your ship, and I'm shaking hands with officers I've never heard of flying technology that shouldn't exist. Confused doesn't begin to cover it. Kane smiled grimly. Walk with me, Captain. There's a great deal you need to understand, and very little time to explain it. As they moved through the Blackstar's corridors toward the briefing room, Kane gestured to his companions. This is Commander Elena Vasquez, my tactical officer. The cybernetic enhancements you see are standard for deep space reconnaissance teams. And this is Lieutenant Commander Zeth Qatar, formerly of the Andorian Science Collective. Commander Kim stopped walking. Did you just say Andorian, as in alien? Hephalian, Zeth Qatar corrected in accented but perfect English. My mother was human. My father's people have been allied with your species for longer than you might think. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her understanding of reality. How is that possible? We've never made contact with alien species before today,
Captain,
Kane said gently. Everything your government has told you about humanity's place in the galaxy has been a carefully constructed lie. They entered the briefing room, and Kane activated a device from his belt. Immediately, the room's lights dimmed and holographic displays filled the air around them. Sphera saw star charts unlike any in the Blackstar's database's vast networks of inhabited systems, trade routes, and territorial boundaries that spanned half the galaxy. This is the galactic community, Kane explained, gesturing to the display. 47 sentient species working together in relative peace. Humanity has been a member for over 200 years. That's impossible, Torres interjected. Earth's first interstellar ships launched only 30 years ago. Commander Vasquez stepped forward, her cybernetic arm interfacing directly with the holographic controls. Earth's first interstellar ships, she corrected. The colonies that became the United Earth Systems were established by ships that left your world in the early 21st century. The display shifted, showing a timeline that made Sarah's head spin. Hidden space programs, secret colony ships, the gradual development of faster-than-light, travel all happening parallel to the earthbound civilization she thought she knew. But why the secrecy, Kim asked. Why keep Earth isolated? Kane's expression darkened. Because of them. The display changed again, showing the sleek silver ships that had attacked the Blackstar, the hegemony. They're a collective consciousness. That spreads through the galaxy, absorbing other species and turning them into components of their ever-growing empire. Zeth Qatar's blue-tinted features grew grim. My father's people were among the first to fall to them. The survivors who escaped brought warnings to the galactic community. The isolation protocol was established to protect Earth, Kane continued. A hidden backup for human civilization in case the worst happened. We've been fighting the hegemony for decades, using advanced technology and alliances with other species. But recently, he paused, and Sarah could see the weight of terrible news in his eyes. The hegemony has broken through our defensive lines. They're moving toward Earth's sector, and they're bringing something new, something we've never seen before. The holographic display showed a massive structure of ship, so large it dwarfed entire fleets. Its surface writhed with organic-looking components, as if it were part machine and part living creature. We call it the Devourer, Vasquez said quietly. Intelligence reports suggest it can consume entire planets, turning their mass into new hegemony forces. Sarah felt sick, and it's heading for Earth. Earth, the outer colonies. Everything in this sector, Kane confirmed. The attack on your ship was reconnaissance. They're probing our defenses, testing human responses. But Captain Zeth Qatar added, there's something they don't know. Something that might give us an advantage. Kane nodded. The hegemony assimilates other species by breaking down their individuality, turning them into components of a collective mind. Oh, but humans. Humans are different. Different how? Sarah asked. You resist, Vasquez explained. Every other species we've studied eventually succumbs to hegemony mental intrusion. But human consciousness seems to have a natural immunity. It's not complete. They can still be defeated through conventional means. But mental domination doesn't. Work on you. Sarah looked around the room at her crew, seeing the same mixture of fear and determination in their faces that she felt herself. So what are you asking us to do? Kane leaned forward. Captain, the USS Blackstar is more than just an exploration vessel. Your ship was selected for modification with some of our most advanced technology. Hidden weapon systems, enhanced shields, drives capable of speeds your crew has never imagined. Sarah's mind reeled. You're saying my own ship has been compromised? Kane said firmly. Enhanced. We've been preparing for this day, hoping it would never come, but ready. If it did, the Blackstar is one of 12 vessels equipped to fight the hegemony on equal terms. Torres was studying the holographic displays intently. The energy readings I couldn't identify during the attack. They were from our own systems, weren't they? Systems I don't even know about. Your ship's AI has been instructed to reveal those capabilities only when certain threat criteria are met, Vasquez confirmed. The attack you survived today was one of those triggers. Sarah stood up slowly, trying to process everything she'd learned. Her ship had hidden weapons. Her government had lied about humanity's place in the galaxy. An alien collective was heading toward Earth with a planet-killing weapon. and apparently humans had a unique ability to resist mental domination that might be the key to stopping an invasion. "If I agree to this," she said carefully, "what exactly are you asking me and my crew to do?" Kane's expression was grave. "We're asking you to help us fight a war that could determine the survival of every free-thinking being in the galaxy. The hegemony must be stopped before they reach Earth's sector. And if we refuse, then in 6 months, Earth will be consumed by the Devourer, along with every human colony in known space. The hegemony will add our technology and knowledge to their collective, making them even more dangerous to the remaining free worlds." Sarah looked at each of her senior officers and Kim nodded grimly. Torres was already pulling up tactical displays. Park looked terrified but determined. Admiral Sarah said finally, "Show me these hidden capabilities. If we're going to war against impossible odds, I want to know exactly what my ship can do." Kane smiled for the first time since boarding. "Computer authorization, Canal Fizo 7. Activate Blackstar enhanced systems." Immediately the ship's familiar hum changed pitch. New displays came online throughout the briefing room, and Sarah could feel the deck plating vibrate with unfamiliar energy patterns. "Welcome to the real war, Captain Chen," Kane said. "Now let's see what humanity can do when it fights back." The Blackstar's hidden systems came online. Sarah realized that everything she thought she knew about her ship, her mission, and her species had been preparation for this moment. The question now was whether it would be enough. Outside the ship, in the depths of space, sensors detected energy signatures moving at the edge of the system. The hegemony was coming. They were no longer alone. Chapter 3. The Devourer's hunger 3 days after Admiral Kane's revelation. The USS Blackstar emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system, and Captain Chen immediately understood why they called it the Devourer. The massive hegemony vessel stretched across the viewscreen like a metallic cancer, its hull writhing with organic components that pulsed with sickly green light. It was consuming the system's third planet, massive tendrils extending from its belly to strip away entire continents. What had once been a thriving world was now nothing more than raw material being processed into new hegemony forces. "My God," whispered Communications Officer Park. "It's eating the whole planet." Sarah gripped her command chair as the ship's enhanced sensors fed data to her personal display. The Devourer was 12 kilometers long and growing larger by the hour as it consumed planetary mass. Worse, it wasn't alone. Dozens of the sleek silver ships it encountered before swarmed around it like antibodies protecting a virus. "Captain," Torres called from the tactical station, "I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the enemy fleet. They've detected our presence." "Time to see what our new toys can do," Sarah muttered. "Torres, bring all enhanced weapons online." Kim signaled the fleet it's time to begin. The Blackstar was no longer alone. Admiral Kane's ship, the UES Prometheus, hung in space nearby, along with 9 other vessels of various designs. Some were clearly human in origin, while others bore the architectural signatures of alien allies. Together, they represented the largest multi-species fleet ever assembled against the hegemony. "This is Admiral Kane to all vessels," came the familiar voice over the communications system. "Operation Starfall is now active. Remember, our objective is not to destroy the Devourer. That may be impossible. Our goal is to disrupt its feeding process and force it to retreat while we evacuate the remaining civilian populations." Sarah activated her ship-wide communications. "All hands, this is the captain. Out. What we do here today will determine the fate of not just humanity, but every free species in the galaxy. The Blackstar has capabilities you've never seen before, and we're about to use every one of them." Battle stations. The bridge transformed as hidden panels slid away to reveal advanced weapon controls. Torres's tactical station expanded into a complex array of holographic displays that would have been impossible with standard human technology. "Enhanced plasma cannons are online," Torres reported, her voice filled with wonder at the new systems. "Quantum torpedoes loaded, and Captain, you have something called a reality distortion field that I'm still trying to understand. Focus on what you know for now," Sarah advised. "We'll learn the exotic weapons as we go." The hegemony ships moved to intercept the Allied fleet with the cold precision of a machine consciousness. But as they closed to weapons range, Sarah saw something that made her blood run cold. Captain Zethkatar's voice came from the Prometheus. Long-range sensors are detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching from the galactic rim. The hegemony isn't just feeding here, they're staging for a major offensive. On the tactical display, Sarah watched as dozens of new contacts began dropping out of hyperspace throughout the system. It's not just the sleek silver ships they'd fought before, but massive dreadnoughts and bizarre organic vessels that defied conventional design. How many? Sarah asked. 200 and counting, Torres replied grimly. Captain, we're outnumbered 20-1. Sarah felt the familiar calm that came over her in moments of extreme crisis. Then we'd better make sure each shot counts. All ships, engage. The battle erupted across the system as the Allied fleet opened fire with weapons that bent the laws of physics. The Blackstar's enhanced plasma cannons fired bolts of energy that seemed to tear holes in space itself, while quantum torpedoes phased through enemy shields to detonate inside enemy hulls. But the hegemony ships adapted quickly. Their silver hulls began to shift and change, developing new configurations that absorbed or deflected the exotic energies being thrown at them. They're learning, Torres called out as her weapons became less effective with each salvo. Their adaptive capability is beyond anything in our databases. Then we adapt to, Sarah replied. Park, are you still reading transmissions from the Devourer?
Yes, Captain.
But they're not communications. It's more like coordination signals. They're all connected, sharing information instantly. Sarah had an idea that made her stomach clench with its implications. Torres, can we tap into those signals? Feed false information into their network? Maybe. But Captain, to interface with a hegemony network would require direct mental contact. It's a risk of assimilation. That's where human resistance comes in, Sarah said grimly. Park, you're our best communications specialist. Can you create a buffer system that would let us hack their network without full exposure? Park's face went pale. I can try, but if I'm wrong about the extent of human immunity, the alternative is watching them consume every world in this sector, Sarah reminded her. Do it. As Park worked frantically at her station, the battle raged around them. Prometheus took devastating hits from 3 hegemony dreadnoughts, its dark hull cracking to reveal the blue energy that powered its systems. One of the alien allied ships, a beautiful crystalline vessel from a species Sarah had never heard of, exploded in a shower of diamond fragments as its quantum core overloaded. Captain! Shh! Torres shouted. Multiple hegemony ships are breaking off from the main battle. They're heading straight for us. Sarah looked at the tactical display and saw 6 of the silver ships accelerating toward the Blackstar with obvious hostile intent. Their hulls were glowing with the same purple energy they'd seen before, but now it was much brighter, more focused. Know what we're trying to do, she realized? They're prioritizing our destruction. Connection established, Park announced, her voice strained. I'm interfacing with their coordination network, but Captain ... their collective consciousness is vast. I can feel millions of minds all thinking as one. Can you disrupt it? I'm trying, but Park's eyes suddenly went wide with terror. Captain, they know I'm here. They're trying to trace the connection back to us, the attacking hegemony ships. Opened fire, and the Blackstar shuddered under the impact of weapons that seemed to target the ship's quantum structure itself. Emergency alarms blared as sections of the hull began to phase in and out of normal space. Hull integrity compromised, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from Engineering. Whatever they're hitting us with is affecting our dimensional stability. Sarah made a decision that went against every instinct of command caution. Torres. Fire everything we have at the lead ship. Don't hold anything back. Use the reality distortion field if you have to. Captain, we don't know what that weapon will do, and we're about to find out together. Torres activated the exotic weapon. System and space around the Blackstar suddenly twisted. Reality itself seemed to bend and warp as the distortion field expanded outward, catching 2 of the attacking hegemony ships in its effect. What happened next defied description. The enemy vessels didn't explode or break apart. They simply stopped, existing in any recognizable form. One moment they were there, the next, They had been transformed into geometric impossibilities that the human mind couldn't process. "Dear God," whispered Kim. "What did we just do?" "We leveled the playing field," Sarah replied, though she felt sick at the implications of the weapon they'd just used. "Captain," Cart called out urgently, "I found something in their network. The Devourer isn't just feeding randomly, it's looking for something specific. Some kind of artifact or technology." "Oh, what kind of artifact?" "I'm not sure, but the search parameters mention something called the Nexus Key. Captain, I think the hegemony is looking for a weapon that could give them control over the entire galaxy." Before Sarah could respond, Admiral Kane's voice crackled. "Over the communications system, distorted by battle damage. All ships, emergency withdrawal. Long-range sensors show a massive hegemony reinforcement fleet incoming. We have to retreat now." Sarah looked at the tactical display and saw the truth of Kane's words. Hundreds of new contacts were dropping out of hyperspace throughout the system, including 3 more vessels the size of the Devourer. Torres lay down, covering fire for the withdrawal. "Park, did you manage to plant any false data in their network?" Yes, I think so. I fed them coordinates for a non-existent artifact location in the Outer Rim. It might buy us some time. Good work, all hands. Prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace." As the Allied fleet began its retreat, Sarah watched the Devourer continue its methodical consumption of the planet below. In just hours of feeding, it had grown noticeably larger, and new hegemony ships were already emerging from construction bays along its hull. Captain Kim said quietly, "Even if we'd won this battle, destroyed every ship in the system, there are more Devourers out there, aren't there?" Sarah nodded grimly. "According to Kane's intelligence, at least 6, maybe more." "Then how do we possibly win this war?" Sarah looked at the retreating Allied fleet of ships against an enemy that could build fleets faster than they could destroy them. But something Park had said stuck in her mind. The hegemony was looking for something, some kind of key that could give them ultimate power. "Maybe we don't win by destroying them," she said slowly. "Maybe we win by making sure they never find what they're really looking for." As the Blackstar jumped to hyperspace, leaving the dying system behind, Sarah began to formulate a desperate plan. If the hegemony wanted this Nexus Key badly enough to search for it across the galaxy, then perhaps the key to defeating them lay not in direct confrontation, but in a race to find the artifact first. The war was far from over. In fact, Sarah was beginning to realize it had barely begun. Chapter 4. The Nexus Gambit, the hidden base inside the Kronos Nebula, looked more like a city than a military installation. Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of the massive space station, watching hundreds of ships from dozens of species dock and depart in a constant flow of activity. It had been 2 weeks since the disastrous battle at Kepler. Admiral Kane had brought the surviving Allied forces to this secret facility to regroup and plan their next move. What Sarah saw here changed everything she thought she knew about the war against the hegemony. "Impressive, isn't it?" Kane said, joining her at the observation window. "The Free Worlds Coalition has been building this base for 30 years, preparing for the day when the hegemony would make their final push toward the galaxy's core." Sarah watched a massive ship she didn't recognize dock at one of the station's arms. Its hull was composed of what looked like living coral, and beings that resembled walking trees moved cargo containers with organic tendrils. "How many species are part of this coalition?" she asked. 47 confirmed members, with more joining every day as the hegemony advances, Kane replied. But Sarah... paused, using her first name for the first time. "We need to talk about what your communications officer discovered in the hegemony network." They made their way through the station's corridors, past beings that represented every form of sentient life Sarah could imagine. 3-meter-tall insectoids worked alongside humanoid robots, while energy beings that existed as pure consciousness communicated through crystalline intermediaries. The Coalition's command center was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Vast chamber where holographic displays from different species technologies somehow interfaced seamlessly. At the center stood a figure Sarah recognized from intelligence briefings, Commander Arya Thorne. the legendary human strategist who had coordinated the Coalition's resistance for over a decade. "Captain Chen," Thorne said, extending her hand. "Your ship's performance at Kepler was remarkable. More importantly, Lieutenant Park's infiltration of the hegemony network has given us our first real intelligence breakthrough in years." Thorne gestured to a massive holographic display showing the galaxy with red zones marking hegemony territory. The red had grown significantly even in the 2 weeks since the battle. "The Nexus key that your officer discovered isn't just another weapon," Thorne explained. "According to the data Park extracted, it's a control system left behind by the progenitors." Sarah felt her blood chill. "The progenitors are real?" "Very real," confirmed a new voice. Sarah turned to see a being that appeared to be made of flowing liquid metal, its surface constantly shifting between in different configurations. "I am Fluxgatorn of the Metamorphic Collective. My people have preserved records of the progenitors for over 1,000,000 years." The liquid metal being flowed closer, its form solidifying into a rough approximation of a humanoid shape. The progenitors were the first species to achieve galaxy-spanning civilization. They created technologies that we still barely understand, including the quantum infrastructure that allows faster-than-light travel. "And the Nexus key?" Sarah asked. "Master control for that infrastructure," Kane explained grimly. "Hegemony gets their hands on it. They could control hyperspace itself, cut off star systems, redirect fleets, or worse, collapse the quantum tunnels that connect civilized space." Thorne brought up a new display, showing ancient star charts covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as Sarah looked at them. "We've been analyzing the false coordinates that Park fed into the hegemony network. Ironically, while they were meant as a diversion, they may have accidentally pointed us toward the real location." "The Veil Nebula," Kane said, indicating a region of space that appeared almost empty on current star charts. "Long-range surveys show massive gravitational anomalies that suggest artificial structures." Sarah studied the data. "It's deep in hegemony territory. Any ship that goes there would be cut off from support." "Which is why we're not sending a fleet," Thorne replied. "We're sending the Blackstar." Sarah's crew had been assembled for the briefing, and she saw Commander Kim's face go pale. "You want us to fly alone into the heart of enemy territory, too? Search for an artifact that might not even exist." "Not alone," Kane corrected. "I'll be accompanying you aboard the Prometheus, along with a small task force of our most advanced ships. But yes, essentially, we're asking you to undertake a mission. With almost no chance of return." Torres looked up from the tactical displays she'd been studying. "What about the hegemony forces we'd encounter? Even with our enhanced systems, we can't fight an entire sector's worth of enemy ships." Fluxgatorn flowed closer to the display, its metallic surface rippling with what might have been excitement. "The Metamorphic Collective has developed a new technology specifically for this mission. Quantum camouflage that can hide your ships not just from sensors, but from reality itself." Sarah didn't like the sound of that. "What are the side effects?" "Unknown," Fluxgatorn admitted. "The technology has never been tested on organic beings. It may cause temporal displacement, dimensional phasing, or complete molecular dissolution." "Wonderful," Kim muttered. "And if we somehow survive the trip, manage to find this mythical artifact, and escape with it, then we deny the hegemony their ultimate weapon, and by the galaxy time to mount a real defense," Thorne said. "The Coalition has plans for a coordinated strike on the Devourer fleets, but we need months to prepare. This mission could give us that time." Sarah looked around the room at faces both human and alien, all united by the desperate hope that somehow, against impossible odds, they could prevent the galaxy's fall to the hegemony collective. "There's something else," Kane said quietly. "Sarah, the reason your ship was selected for enhancement, the reason we've been preparing for this day, it's because of you." "Me, Admiral. I'm just an exploration captain. I never asked to be part of some grand destiny." "Sometimes destiny doesn't ask," replied a new voice. Sarah turned to see Lieutenant Park entering the command center, but something was different about her. Her eyes held depths that hadn't been there before, and when she moved, it was with a fluid grace that seemed almost inhuman. "Park," Sarah said cautiously, "are you all right?" "The neural interface with the hegemony network changed me," Captain Park replied, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated strangely in the chamber. "I can still access their collective consciousness, but now I understand why humans resist. Assimilation." Park moved to the holographic display, and as she approached, symbols on the ancient star charts began to shift and reorganize themselves. "We're not just immune to their mental domination," she continued. "We're the antithesis of collective consciousness. Where they see unity, we see individuality. Where they process information through a single shared mind. We create new ideas through the chaos of billions of separate thoughts." The star charts now showed a clear path through hegemony space, marked with navigation points that seemed to pulse with their own light. "The progenitors knew this would happen eventually," Park said, her enhanced awareness somehow interpreting. "The ancient data, they left the Nexus key, where only a species like humanity could find it, hidden in the spaces between thoughts. In the quantum uncertainty that collective consciousness cannot comprehend." Sarah felt the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. Everything had led to the secret human colonies, the enhanced ships, the war against the hegemony, and now a desperate mission into enemy territory to find a weapon that might save the galaxy. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Intelligence suggests the hegemony's real search fleets will reach the Veil Nebula in 6 days," Thorne replied. "You'll need to leave within the hour if you want any chance of beating them there." Sarah looked at each of her senior officers in turn. Kim nodded grimly, his loyalty unwavering despite the odds. Torres was already calculating firing solutions for weapons she'd never used. Park watched her with eyes that held knowledge both wonderful and terrible. "Admiral Kane," Sarah said finally, "how many ships are you bringing?" "5 of our most advanced vessels, including the Prometheus. Fast, stealthy, and equipped with the latest weapons technology. And if we find the Nexus key, what then?" Kane's expression was grim. "Then we pray that ancient progenitor technology can stand against everything the hegemony throws at us, because they'll commit every ship in their fleet to stop us from escaping with it." Sarah took one last look at the massive space station, at the diverse species working together to preserve freedom in the galaxy. In a few hours, she might never see any of it again. "All right," she said. "Let's go steal a key to the galaxy."
Yes.
The briefing dispersed, and crews began preparing for departure. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change not just the war, but the fundamental nature of existence itself. The hegemony had spent millennia seeking ultimate control through collective consciousness, but perhaps true power lay not in unity, but in the beautiful, chaotic diversity of individual minds. Working together by choice rather than compulsion, the next few hours would determine which philosophy would rule the galaxy. ## epilogue. The key to everything. 6 hours into the journey through hegemony space, the USS Blackstar and her escort fleet materialized at the edge of the Veil Nebula, their quantum camouflage systems crackling with unstable energy that made reality shimmer. Around them, Captain Chen stood on her bridge, watching the sensor displays with growing amazement. The nebula wasn't natural, it was a vast construct. Millions of years old, its gas clouds arranged in geometric patterns that spoke of incredible engineering. Captain Park called from her station, her enhanced consciousness interfacing directly with the ship's sensors and detecting massive structures throughout the nebula. "This isn't just hiding the Nexus key, this is the Nexus key." On the main view screen, the nebula's gas clouds began to part, revealing structures that defied comprehension. Crystalline spires larger than moons hung in perfect formation, connected by streams of energy that pulsed with the rhythm of a cosmic heartbeat. "My God," whispered Torres, "the entire nebula is one massive machine." Admiral Kane's voice crackled. Over the communications system from the Prometheus, Sarah, long-range sensors show hegemony fleets approaching from multiple vectors. "We have maybe 20 minutes before they arrive in overwhelming force." But Park was shaking her head, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as she communed with the ancient progenitor technology. "Captain, time works differently here. The key exists in quantum superposition, past, present, and future simultaneously. The hegemony can't find it because they think linearly as a collective. But we think in chaos, Sarah finished. Understanding beginning to dawn? Individual thoughts creating infinite possibilities? The Blackstar moved deeper into the nebula. Sarah felt something she'd never experienced before the ship itself was becoming part of the ancient network. Its human crew providing the random elements the progenitor technology needed to fully activate, Captain, Kim reported from his station. The hegemony fleets have arrived. Confused. Their sensors can't lock on to anything in the nebula. It's like we exist in a different layer of reality. Through the view screen, Sarah could see the sleek silver ships of the Hegemony Collective moving in perfect formation at the nebula's edge. It's their unified consciousness, unable to comprehend the quantum uncertainty that protected the ancient construct. Park, can you activate the key? It's already active, Captain. It always has been. Question is, what do we do with power over the fundamental structure of space and time? Sarah looked around her bridge at faces both human and alien, at individuals who had chosen to work together not because they were forced to, but because they believed in something greater than themselves. We give it back, she said finally. Captain Torres asked, confused. The progenitors didn't hide this technology to keep it from the hegemony specifically. Sarah explained, the understanding flowing through her like revelation. They hid it from anyone who would use it to impose their will on others, including us. Park nodded slowly, her enhanced consciousness beginning to grasp the full implications. The key isn't a weapon, Captain. It's a test. The only way to pass is to refuse to use it. As if responding to her words, the ancient structures throughout the nebula began to pulse with increasing intensity. The hegemony ships outside suddenly stopped their advance, their collective consciousness experiencing something it had never encountered before. What's happening to them? Kim asked. Park smiled, and for a moment she looked like herself again rather than the enhanced being. She'd become... The key is broadcasting pure chaos, billions of individual thoughts and possibilities. It's breaking down their collective consciousness, forcing them to experience what it means to be individual. On the view screen, Sarah watched as the hegemony ships began to break formation. Some turned and fled. Others simply stopped moving altogether, their crews presumably struggling with the alien concept of independent thought. Admiral Kane, Sarah called over the communications system. I think we found something better than a weapon. We found a cure. Kane's reply was filled with wonder. Sarah, I'm reading massive energy discharges throughout hegemony space. It's like the effect is spreading through their quantum communications network. The ancient progenitor construct pulsed one final time, then began to fade, its purpose finally fulfilled after millions of years of waiting. As it disappeared, it left behind something far more valuable than ultimate power. It left hope. Park said, her voice returning to normal, as the enhanced consciousness faded from her eyes. Long-range communications are picking up signals from throughout the galaxy. Former hegemony worlds are declaring independence. The collective is fragmenting. Sarah settled back in her command chair, exhaustion and relief washing over her in equal measure. They had ventured into the heart of enemy territory seeking a weapon that could destroy their foes, and instead they had found something that could heal them. Set course for Earth, she ordered. I think it's time the people back home learned the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. As the Blackstar and her escort fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Veil Nebula behind, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them here. They had faced an enemy that seemed invincible, discovered technologies that defied understanding, and ultimately learned that their greatest strength lay not in advanced weapons or superior tactics, but in something far simpler and more profound. Chaos of individual thought, the beauty of chosen cooperation, the power of diversity over unity. The hegemony had sought to bring order to the galaxy through forced assimilation. But true order, Sarah now understood, could only emerge from the voluntary association of free minds working toward common goals. The war was far from over. There would still be hegemony remnants to deal with, worlds to liberate, and the massive task of helping billions of newly freed beings learn to think for themselves. But for the first time since the conflict began, victory seemed not just possible, but inevitable. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not as conquerors, but as liberators. And in doing so, They had perhaps fulfilled the greatest destiny of all, teaching the universe that strength came not from unity imposed from above, but from diversity celebrated and protected. The USS Blackstar continued on its journey home, carrying with it the seeds of a new age where every sentient being would have the right to think their own thoughts, make their own choices, and forge their own destiny among the stars. The Galactic Empire's destruction had begun not with weapons or warfare, but with the simple, revolutionary idea that freedom was more powerful than any force in the universe. And in the end, that made all the difference.